behind the scenes of some of the things that go on during Wildlife TV. And I'm going to introduce the man who's going to do the introductions and introduce his panel to you. Please put your hands together for TV vet, conservationist, and the lead on the Ealing Beaver Project, Sean McCormack.
Okay, thank you guys for coming. It's a pleasure to be here. It's definitely a pleasure to be closing out the Global Bird Fair today. I hope you've all had fun. Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, it's an honour to be talking to three people who I really admire and respect. They're not on screen yet, but we're going to be talking about what it's like to work in wildlife television. I've dabbled myself, most recently very, very privileged to work with the man himself, David Attenborough, on his Wild London series, but we've also done some of the watches and various kind of nature and vet topics on television. I'm a vet and a conservationist, and I describe myself as an occasional presenter. I kind of wear three hats. But it's all really about storytelling and really about reaching a wide audience for things that I'm passionate about, which is animal welfare, pet welfare, and also wildlife in the natural world, and trying to bring those messages to wider audiences. And the three guests that we're going to invite up do that really, really well. So first up, we have Lucy Lapwing, who many of you are familiar with and probably have seen speaking. Lucy is an incredible author. And a good friend of mine, and we'll do intros. We'll get you guys to introduce yourselves and what you do in a little bit as well. And next up is Robert Fuller, who's an artist and a wildlife filmmaker. And the Global Bird Fair. And last but not least is Megan McCubbin, who is a presenter, zoologist and author as well. Great, so we're going to cover what wildlife TV is really like, how the world of wildlife television is changing as well, and really try and get into some of the reality versus perception of what it's like to work in wildlife television. So I think the best place to start maybe is just a little personal intro of what you do, but also more importantly maybe why you do it, why you've got here. So we'll start with you on the end.
Sure. So I actually had no intention of going into wildlife TV. It happened by a very happy accident, and I feel very lucky to be doing it as my career. But I trained as a scientist. I was going into academia and research. And I was working with bears in bear bar farming in China. I got the opportunity to make my first documentary, and that was all about that topic. And it kind of snowballed from there, really. So I always describe myself best as a science communicator, because these days wildlife TV becomes about writing and articles and journal and everything. So that's always the best description of it, I find. And for me, why I got into it, initially it started with the love of the animals, and then quickly when you realise that the animals that you care about so much are in threat, their habitats are disappearing, and quickly become and realise that it's actually more about people and about the conservation. And I'm very lucky that I try and get towards people and help change things, and I feel like reaching the biggest audience possible is a good way of doing it.
Great, thank you. And Rob, you're a typical example now of how the world of wildlife TV is changing, because you're producing your own TV.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's a changing world. And the beauty about it nowadays is that anyone with a camera and a bit of a personality and a bit of knowledge can output media, whether it's television or on social media. So the world has changed. But my career predominantly started as a wildlife artist. I left school with 0 qualifications, unable to read the alphabet, I couldn't say the alphabet. So it's really dyslexic. Funny enough, I write articles now, things like the BBC Wildlife I have, do monthly columns. So the ability to write was always there, but everything has just got to be wildlife in my life, everything. My family obviously first, but then the wildlife is my life 24/7. So this year I had Christmas afternoon off, and then I've worked every day filming wildlife and studying wildlife, and that's where you get your knowledge from, is actually studying it in real life in the field. So you're picking up on all these different calls and things. But really my career changed a little bit from being an artist to more of a filmmaker nowadays. because I was building hides, building nest boxes, and I was always intrigued to see what was happening inside a nest box. I wanted to know when the eggs were laid, when the chicks hatched. I wanted to know everything about the animals, and not everything about them, that individual pair as well. So they're all individual animals that we're studying, just like everyone is in here. We think of a robin being a robin, a kestrel being a kestrel, but there's individual traits within those animals. So that became my passion, my focus, and it's relentless, you know, the drive and the passion I've got for the subject, and especially our British wildlife. I've travelled the world, into every continent, been very lucky, feel very fortunate, but I've just been filming bullfinches for 2 months in the garden. They're just incredible. Film them laying, film them nest building, collecting the nest material, and I'm sometimes filming them they're within 2 or 3 feet of me when I'm filming them. So quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
So very rewarding.
Yeah, very good. I'm always impressed with your output.
Yeah.
The hours pretty crazy. What about you, Lucy? What's your why? Why did you end up where you are now? Where are you now?
I feel honestly a little bit of imposter syndrome, if I'm honest. And sorry about the squeaky voices. I did for one last night. I feel only probably reverberating around my score right now. I do, if I'm being honest, I do feel a little bit of like an imposter because I kind of did just flag my way in, if I'm being totally honest about it. The only real TV that I am involved in regularly is The Watchers, Spring Watch and Co. And I tried for years to get involved. Applied multiple times, never heard anything back. Because my actual career at the time was within conservation. I worked for the RSPB for years, and I think they were just kind of like, why is this like PR person from the RSPB applying for this TV job? It was through happening to bump into somebody who worked on the show and go, please help me, that I finally got given a chance to be a runner. So I was making people cruise and packing lunches and dragging equipment everywhere, and then somebody forgot to send a prop. This was in COVID times. Somebody just, I think one of the producers just turned to me and was like, oh God, we've got like 3 hours, like, can you have a go at making it? And I was like, yes! That's my experience when it comes to TV.
Yeah. We've got some authors obviously on the panel. What do you think is the importance of storytelling? Obviously we're all kind of communicators in some way, through art or through writing. But what drives you, and what do you think the importance of telling good stories is? What's the trick to tell good stories to engage people? Megan, maybe.
Storytelling is everything. We communicate through stories. When you get home and ask, your family about their day and everything. So our whole, centre of how we communicate is about stories. And you can get people to feel things, especially with images and with art and everything. You don't have to be there to care about it. You can see something halfway across the world. It didn't happen in front of your face, but you can see something, connect with it, engage with it, and care about it. So storytelling is one of the most powerful things. I always think with art and photography, it's such an important medium because you don't have to speak the same language. You can have an audience of so many people from around the world, and although you might not understand a word that the other can say, the photographer is getting you to feel the same thing, the same story, even though you've got that language barrier. And it's very much the same for filmmaking, obviously, without narration and everything like that. You can get people to really care and engage, and I think storytelling is fundamental to human nature, and what makes a good story, especially in wildlife TV, is very diverse. You need to have what they call a hook. You talk about this hook all the time. So something that's going to keep you engaged, something that's going to be interesting, like a mystery. We're going to set out, we're going to do this. Are we going to achieve it? Well, let's wait and find out. Then you go on the adventure, and then you find out at the end. So that's like a standard sort of hook. There's different ways of telling stories, and they can be emotional, they can make you angry, they can get your emotions. But ultimately, for me, the best stories are the ones that motivate you to get up and do something. I think storytelling is pretty fundamental. There's loads of ways to go about it, but and it's great fun to make because you can get your creative juices flowing from that shot there and that shot there and mix it together. I don't know. There's something really fun about putting that sort of comms together.
Yeah. Rob, you're great at storytelling with your YouTube series and obviously on social media. You're, some would say, anthropomorphizing or personifying creatures, giving them names, giving them characters, really telling the story of the individual animal. And some of the maybe more traditional in the media world, in natural history, might frown at that. It might be the engagement you get is incredible. What are your thoughts on that? Conscious decision, or play around with it, or how do you come to that?
So if I'm following 3 pairs of pronouns, do I give them numbers? What do we do? Or do I open it up to my viewers and say, what do you want to call these amazing animals? And they name the animals, so they have a belonging that's part of their. And if they've actually named that animal, then it's then they've actually chosen that name, and they're invested in that animal now. So that is absolutely key. The thing is, humans, we're obviously very intelligent, and we're superior to all of these wild animals. And I can tell you for a fact, I don't think we are superior to wild animals. My biggest city is Leeds, so I can't get around there without the sat-nav. I've got swallows that have arrived back from Africa, and I'm convinced it's the same now. About 40% of the male swallows return and female swallows return to the same nest. But he just flew in one day, and he just went up onto the wire and started singing. He hadn't prospected the portrait nests, he just came in and sang. And it's like, that's the first moment I saw that bird, and it was the first time he flew in. And to think that we're somehow superior to that little bird with a tiny brain is just crazy. But the storytelling part of it, you literally covered virtually all of it there, it's brilliant. But it's creating that connection with your viewers. So naming the animals, I mean, it's like, why not? People criticise and we'll criticise the work. Family views on social media across the platforms. So crack on, it's like.
And reaching people maybe that other kind of more stiff or scientific programs wouldn't reach, right?
We have so many people that contact us say they don't realise they were that interested in wildlife, and I've had numerous people this year saying you've changed my life, you've literally formed my career pathway. And it literally really makes them cry sometimes. You meet these people and you just say, at the end of the day, I think I'm not going to play, but I have this, crazy passion for wildlife that's unstoppable, and I'm trying to present that to the public in a way that they can understand more, rather than being more scientific. Let them feel those emotions, and create a hook, but not create a hook. Actually, the best way I think with wildlife is just to watch the wildlife. They've got their story. If you observe it enough and spend enough time with it, that is the story. Why are we, as producers of whether it's television or social media, why are we going in with a preconceived idea? Get your boots on the ground and spend the hours observing the animal. It's like I filmed bullfinches laying an egg this year several times. The only reason I filmed the bullfinch laying an egg is because I know every single thing about it, and I know what time it's going to lay that egg, so I know to be there with the cameras, you see. So it's just knowing your subject, but then trying to create a beautiful story that people it keeps them watching, because it is so important. It is so easy if social media or even television, you can choose not to turn it on. You just scroll away. And if you've got beautiful pictures, sometimes it's not enough nowadays. Because people, that's a nice picture, that's a nice picture. And there's a lot of nice pictures nowadays. There's thousands and millions of nice pictures taken every day. But we've got to create something that's going to stop people and attract and watch.
Absolutely. Lucy, you kind of straddle the natural history storytelling and science with a lot of your prop making and explaining really complex and very difficult to understand concepts or life cycles or anatomy, physiology. Is that what gives you energy? Is that part of your storytelling journey?
I mean, I'm not from a scientific background. I've got a degree, but I can't for the life of me do anything mathematical or technical or anything like that. So, working in natural history TV, working on Springwatch, it's full of the most wonderful nerds. These are people going the deepest dive on the sex lives of an aquatic snail. And they'll come across the office and they'll be like, I found this article, and it'll be like a new paper, and it'll be some really obscure little element of life history that isn't ever something you can capture visually by filming it or photographing it. It might be a chemical process, or it might be something on such a microscopic scale that you can't capture it, or something that's happening internally in an organism. So yeah, I mean, it's one of the really kind of I don't know, naff in a nice way parts of Spring Watch is the props, is creating a way to visualise something that could otherwise be quite dry or technical, and making it, you know, visually represented in a way that you can understand. And it is very simple, but there's a reason why we use these things to educate kids as well. Like, you know, visual aids it's something that, you know, you can hold in your mind and help you understand what on earth's going on, even if it's about the mechanism that a certain parasitic worm uses to attach to the intestines of a fish. You know, it's quite like a creative challenge to do that. I suppose it is a type of storytelling. That's a nice way to think about it.
For sure. What we're hearing, I guess, is that there's a huge diversity of kind of content out there. There's a huge diversity of ways to connect people with nature, and it can be quite a saturated market. If you just look at social media content, like you're bombarded with information all the time. So to get that cut through is difficult. The media landscape is changing, and we talked about this behind the scenes about TV industry is completely changed and turned on its head, and some would say struggling at the moment. There's not very many natural history programs on British TV in particular. We're probably all pretty disappointed that Winter Watch was axed very recently. I've seen some nodding heads. You know, so we're dealing with a changing landscape. We're dealing with difficult budgets. We're dealing with risk aversion in the media world, not to take a risk on new formats or new talent and things like that. What are some of the sort of expectations of this world that you work in versus the reality that you constantly have to tell people? Because there's so many people clamoring to get into it and see it as this glamorous job. But what are the sort of big expectation versus reality bring people down to earth when they ask you, could I do that too? This must be an amazing job. I think you're laughing. So I think you'll ask this a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a privilege. Like, you know, to work on the watches, you know, with Lucy and the team is phenomenal. When you're there and the energy and everything, and you've got a team of 100 people putting together the nerdiest of sciences that you will never in your wildest dreams imagine, and figuring out a way to visually and visually communicate as well as with words and everything. It's fun, it's great, and we all love it. But the industry is hard at the moment. It's very challenging, and you know, you see a fraction of it in front of the screens. And you know, unfortunately, the way that people are consuming content is changing. There are very few people that watch terrestrial TV. We're really lucky at the Watches actually that people do tune in, you know, at 8 p.m. every evening to watch it. But there's very few shows like that draw people in, unless it's a football game.
Shame on you all.
Yeah, go and watch that last night instead of the disco. But there's very few events like that, the televised events that draw people in. I mean, when I was at university, there was so few what we call big blue chips, so the big David Attenborough shows, that when one came out, it was an event. Like, we would come home from the library, we would get snacks, and there would be 10 of us piled in our friend's living room, and we would be watching it, and it was this exciting thing. Every week we would look forward to this one episode coming out. But people aren't watching TV like that anymore. And when COVID happened, sorry to go back there, you know, we had all of these budgets and all of these ideas. So when COVID restrictions eased, what that meant was that all the film crews went out very quickly. And the market became very oversaturated with these big blue chips very quickly. You know, Netflix was taking them on, Disney were taking them on. All of a sudden, all of them were having this really high quality nature output that is kind of oversaturated everything. Budgets have unfortunately got less and less. You know, people are still clambering in, and I think it's really hard actually. And one of the challenges with the industry at the moment is that a lot of people can't afford to stay in it anymore because there simply isn't the work. And what that means is that the people that can afford to wait are waiting. So you're getting this issue with diversity now as well with the competition, which is a challenge that I think is here now, but it's going to be increasingly so in the future. So, you know, there are lots. There's high competition. It's tough and it's challenging out there, but things are changing. So of course, Winter Watch is incredibly sad. We all love it. It's an expensive program to make because we have to rent satellite time, and that is big money. That's expensive. That's where most of the budget goes. But in good news, we've got Nature Watch. Has everyone heard about Nature Watch yet? There's a few heads nodding. So that's going to be a weekly watches show. It's going to be half an hour. We're still unsure of the details. It will come out in due course, and we're all really excited about it. It's going to be a bit different for sure. but it's going to be something similar. But things are moving, because that's going to be like a film podcast. It's going to sit on YouTube on podcast basis. YouTube and doing TV yourself is the way to go. Things are shifting in that direction. Everything's changing from how viewers are watching content to how we can produce it for the most impact and effectiveness. In a nutshell.
Rob, what about the role of YouTube and self-made TV? What's the expectation versus reality? You spend hours.
Yeah, you've covered a lot of the subjects that are very applicable, that basically the industry is in trouble, which is a great shame. But I think the industry had almost been inflated, which was part of the problem by the streaming services trying to out-compete each other. And then the terrestrial channels trying to keep up with the streaming services. So there was a big boom, and then the boom wasn't sustainable, which is part of the problem. And then people are then taking lower grade jobs. So I've always tried to spread them across them, so I do stuff for television. The more you can spread them, the net, the better. A little drink. The more you can spread your net, the better of doing different things. So I obviously sell artwork, I do YouTube, Facebook, and I sell products all around the world. So my career in wildlife filmmaking has a backstop, which is my ability to paint, which sees us through some tricky times. Well, I think the key to it for us actually is quite interesting at the moment, but we're actually, these programs are still wanting to be made on television, but we don't have the budget to make them. So I've found we've probably got a tenfold increase in footage we've been asked for programs.
And getting paid for that.
And getting paid for that. Yeah. So that's increased, but that's because they can't afford to send a film crew. And plus on the environmental side, we do stuff for the One Show, 4 to 8 films a year for the One Show. The environmental tick boxes that, how many trips have you done in the car, it's all to be filled in, and it's all, where this information goes, I don't know. So there is the environmental footprint that they don't necessarily hire a film crew from here to film in Africa. We'll try and get a local film crew, like in Brazil, I was out filming jaguars in the Pantanal. They had a local film crew that were doing something there, and it's not a Brazilian company that's making that program. So yeah, the world has changed dramatically, and people are willing, some people that stay in the industry are willing to take a lower grade of job to stay within the industry. I guess I'm quite fortunate that I've got YouTube, we've got Facebook, we had Instagram and then we lost it, so we had to start again with that, we got hacked. So nothing is stable. Every day, when you have a platform as large as this, we are under attack every day. Of people trying to form accounts like ours, and just managing that is the job. Taking our content, reposting it, it's endless. Like on TikTok, there's more of my footage on TikTok than other people have taken than that I put on themselves. It's like the Wild West sometimes. But I don't see it as all doom and gloom. We just need to change and adapt. But I just feel for a lot of the other students coming through the ranks, it's brutal. You have to be literally razor. You've got to be something completely. You've got to graft and have that extra edge. There's a real proper extra edge to break into the industry.
Yeah. What about you, Lucy? Expectations versus reality?
Yeah. Well, to continue on that vein, they're going to come at it from a different angle. You were saying at the start about social media and having to have cut through and using words like competition. I don't think that's not my experience of it. And I think, I don't know, you could view it like that, or you could also look at it on the flip side and see it quite positive, that the internet now is full of particularly young people engaging with nature, and they love it so much that they are filming the things that they find, they're writing about it, they're making videos. When I first started on Instagram, I couldn't find anyone. This was 12 years ago or something. I couldn't find anyone young my age, couldn't find young naturalists, and now look, they're all here, they're all dancing in the bloody disco last night. I don't think it is competition, and my experience is, as a woman in the sector, it's like us girls beat each other up and shout each other out, and You know, I don't see anybody else within the sector as competition. I see them as like, we're in this together. You know, we're facing a biodiversity crisis and a climate crisis and, you know, seeing social justice issues all over the world. All of these things are interrelated. And if you look at like, you know, patterns of history, when there has been a movement and a very big political shift or change, lots of people who've been part of that have said that at the time it doesn't feel like you are.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Right now we're all kind of banging our heads against the wall, thinking, oh God, everything's awful, like it's all doom and gloom, it's all going down the shitter. But it does feel like there's a collective mindset shift happening, and it might be frustratingly slow, and it might be too late for a lot of people, and that's horrific. But there is something changing, and I think just within the corner of like British natural history, you can see that shift happening with a number of amazing faces from all walks of life. And to go back to storytelling, everyone's got their own style. Like some people want dry, hard scientific facts, preferably with every single Latin name. Some people want something that's the campus queerest thing you've ever seen, that's full of glitter and disco balls. Some people want something that's humorous. Some people want something that's really emotional and full of like, you know, beautiful music. And the fact that so many people can now have a go at doing that and put their own spin on it, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I fully agree. But it's a competition.
I think if we reframe it, you know, because the thing is, sorry to get on my goal. If we start framing it through the lens of competition, we start then mirroring the things that are causing the harm in society. So we're mirroring the chase of growth. We are feeding into the attention economy in that competition. We're putting more money in the pockets of billionaires who own these social media companies to steal people's time and attention. And instead, it makes us focus on ourselves, and then that leads to you know, criticizing yourself. I'm not good enough. I'm not getting enough views. My content's not popular. This and that, and that's such a horrible place to be, and very isolating on your own. Whereas it doesn't matter if you've got like 4 followers or 4 million. Because if you're connecting with somebody, like I've met so many people this weekend who've made me smile and laugh and all of these things through their sharing their joy, and it's just, yeah, you're all just brilliant.
Yeah, I want to frame it as, you know, competition is often thrown around as, you know, that's how it is, and people feel comparison, you know, is a real enemy of creativity.
Yeah.
And I heard it said recently that we shouldn't all be competing for a slice of the pie. We should be making the pie bigger.
Yeah.
You know, there's a huge amount of things to talk about, and we can't all talk about it, and that we shouldn't be competing against each other.
Yeah.
Making our own flavours and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an amazing community. I mean, look at all of you. I mean, this is a fun place to be. I think when it comes to competitive, when you're looking at traditional, old school wildlife TV, those sort of jobs at the moment are few and far between. Well, they're more been advertised recently, which is interesting. But the few and far between, and then everyone goes for them. So it's competitive in that sense. But when you talk about social media as a tool is so exciting, and all the reasons Lisa says, because there are so many people that are coming up, and it is brilliant to big each other up, and you can have the freedom to say what you want, how you want, you can campaign, you've got flexibility in how you do storytelling, which is not something you get with major broadcasters. So actually, the freedom and flexibility and individuality in stories is great because you've got ownership over your own channels, and that's really cool. And like that, you know, social media is not where it becomes competitive. I mean, people get really up in the follow accounts and engagement and all that. Brands will love that, and it's like actually that's irrelevant. Post what you love, and people will love it too. You know, enthusiasm is infectious, and it makes everybody feel good watching you love something. So post what you love, and actually like you find your community, and that is the best way of storytelling. And that's one of the good things of the industry changing, is that it is shifting into individual kind of storytelling and on socials or YouTube or however it is, and that gives us flexibility and freedom, and actually that's quite cool.
Yeah,
It's good because everyone's got a chance, really. If you have even if you've got a smartphone, and I did a talk on here on Friday evening, some of the footage I put up on this screen was filmed on an iPhone 11, I think. And, you know, there is an opportunity, if you're interested in doing it, to make a start, definitely, and have a go at it. That's the thing, even if it just becomes a passionate hobby, you know, and then you have a real job, you know what I mean? That's the key to it. But it's, it's a community thing. The reason it's competitive in a way, because there's only so many paid jobs.
Yeah.
I believe everyone, you know, anyone doing anything, you know, good for wildlife is a brilliant thing. I don't see it as like competitive in that respect. But for people with paid jobs, thumbs on seats, that is the competitive thing.
Yeah. I know the feeling. I think I joke that I say my vet work pays my bills and my conservation work fills my heart, because I don't get paid to keep beavers in Ian, believe me. But how do, you know, if people are coming to you for advice, you know, how do you make a living? How do you make money? How do you make that career work? Or is it something that's becoming a kind of nice to have, side hustle, part-time kind of job? If there's people, young people especially in the audience, that want to make a career in natural history, storytelling, whether it's TV, whether it's social media, what is your individual advice to them on, is that realistic now to make a living? How might they do it?
Who are you asking?
Who wants to go first?
I can go. I'm not sure. It's becoming a lot harder to make a real living from it, for sure. There's no kind of beating around the bush in that way. That's becoming just a lot tougher by the nature of it. Things are shifting, so there's even big broadcasters now are trying to work with brands to fund the documentaries. So often, you know, if I pitch an idea, they'll be like, okay, we've got a brand that aligns with that idea that can put some of the funding towards it. So, you know, like brands are kind of quite useful. Obviously, it's quite careful in the environmental world because you have to do a lot of due diligence on those, because, you know, not all brands are good and ones you want to promote. So, you know, funding is shifting and getting paid is getting harder to make a living from. But that, you know, so initially if you're starting out, put all you can into it. You know, have you know, something else going on which is giving you your income, is probably sensible, and just see where it goes, take it step by step. But if you want it, just go for it, because it is phenomenal when it, you know, when it does work. But yeah, you do, like, you know, like I said before, you do have to put the graft in for it. And I think, you know, it's time to change it, and it will slip back again. It's sort of like things are, it gets worse and it gets better. So things, you know, what I'm saying now might not be true in 6 months, a year's time. So
yeah. Rob, would you say keeping that diversity, as you spoke about, having various streams coming in?
Yeah, just remain flexible, I think, is one of the main things. But it's then if you get into the role of having a full-time job, it's then hard to spend that time. But probably my best bit of advice would be to anyone young is specialise. If you you know, have a subject that you're passionate about, just learn and potentially film everything, you know, whether it's scientific, whether it's footage. Better if you can do all of it. You know, if you've got the science behind it, some knowledge, and learn about just a few subjects. Just start with a few subjects that are nearby to you and you're passionate about. It doesn't matter if it's your robin. I've been filming robins. I've spent weeks side high filming robins this year, and honestly, it's just, you know, it's just amazing when you've got the female robin and the chicks are just hatching, and she starts doing a little song for the male looking out to see where he is. They've hatched. And then he comes and he brings a spider, and he's trying to put this spider down the chick's throat, and she's looking at him thinking, what are you doing? That's too big. And then he tries it with another one, she grabs it off him, and then the spider falls underneath her. And then she's just sat there like this, and then suddenly she's like this, the spider's underneath her, and she's like, shit, there's a spider somewhere. She's pulling the spider out. I mean, how can anyone not relate to this stuff? I mean, it's just gold dust. That's a robin on my driveway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just insane. If you're looking at stuff in that detail, you have a story there. That's a story. It'll make people smile. Connection, and that's what you need. But that's what you, if you're starting out, just get something that no one else has got, and then pursue it. You know, I've done it with several subjects, and I keep picking a new subject every year, and that is my focus, and that is it. I'm on it, that subject, until you find everything you need to know about it.
Great. What about you, Lucy? Advice for a young person wanting to break into this?
Oh, it's really hard. I mean, you'd always say volunteering, when you then get to, you know, when it comes to the conservation sector, this is. Then you get into the ethics of people being expected to give their labour for free, especially things like, you know, unpaid internships and things like that. I, again, feeling like an imposter, just blanked my way in. I didn't volunteer before I did. I remember looking at it in my early 20s, and I was thinking, I worked in a shoe shop at the time. I was like, I can't afford to be it was a receptionist role for a nature reserve visitor centre, 4 days a week for free. I can't afford to do that. And, you know, I don't earn a lot of money now. I absolutely don't. I think we should be quite honest about it. You know, I probably earn maybe £20-something thousand a year, maybe. I don't earn a lot of money. I do live quite a simple life. I don't spend a lot of money, so that helps. But I think in terms of advice, it's really tricky. Having many spinning plates is quite good because you're keeping things mixed up and fresh, and you've got different things going on. And if there's like an ebb in one industry, it might be like a flow in another, and a dip and a trough and whatever. But yeah, I don't know what else in terms of other than just being your authentic self. I think people quite often can conflate professionality with formality. And people think that you have to be quite serious all the time and come across very professionally and write every email professionally. You can be really silly and weird and enthusiastic and childlike and swear and do all of these things and be a professional. Ryan Dalton, comedian last night, not to single you out. But so I think don't let that hold you back. Like, be like your complete weird self, because you are all weirdos, let's be honest. No offence, it's a compliment. We're nature nerds, and you're talking about having a hyperfixation. I'm sure many of us in this room can relate. So yeah, I think just go in with gusto, be that weirdo, and your natural passion will shine.
Yeah, authenticity is key. So we've got very serious, and we've been very serious. So I get a little bit silly, so that's a good segue. I asked on Instagram during the week, what should I be asking these guys about their lives behind the scenes in wildlife television, and one of the common themes that came through was that tell us the most ridiculous, disgusting, or weird position or situation that you've been put in or found yourself in your behind the scenes wildlife TV career. So I want you to put your thinking caps on. Tell us the most disgusting or weird thing that's ever happened, please.
Disgusting, I can't let it go.
Do you have one to mind, yeah?
Yeah, I'm not very good at accents though, but I was doing a program with Julian Clary, and obviously you don't try and outwit a comedian. That's one thing for certain. We're driving to a barn owl nest, and he said to Curtis, and I'm driving in the car, and he says, "Robert, I'm so excited. I've never held a barn owl before." And I said, "Just imagine how the barn owl's feeling." Every barn owl can say, "Julian's Clary's had hold of it." And he grasped my thigh, and he's a big guy, he's taller than me. He grasped my thigh and he said, "It's not every man that can say that either." Yeah, listen to me. Definitely. It was good fun.
Yeah.
It was really good.
And you get into those weird scenarios, right? You didn't think you'd be driving Julian Clary?
No, it's good fun. It's just nice for me to know, he's not necessarily in the wildlife industry, but he's someone who is interested. And I just think it's fun meeting all these different people, meeting different companies, different people. We're all meeting people around the bird fair. We've all got their individual, interests and traits. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy most, is meeting different people, inspiring people who are doing good things, and you get to hang out with them for the day and tell their stories, let them help them tell theirs. So, Megan, weird, wonderful, disgusting, strange, so gross.
I'm going to go gross. So I'm from a show called Animal Park. New series actually starts tomorrow. Tomorrow morning. Shameless plug, sorry everybody. But filming Animal Park, which is based at Longley, is, it's always entertaining because you're up close to quite a lot of animals. And I always say, if I get back to my room after a day and I'm not covered in something, it's a weird day. And I remember one of my first days filming the show when I started, which must have been like 3 or 4 years ago now. We started off with the rhinos, and we were looking for dung beetles, so I had my hands in the rhino dung. It gets better. I took some home, obviously, preserved it. And then, so I had like rhino dung under my fingernails. Then I went and I got peed on by a tapir. So I had tapir pee, and then I went and filmed the lorikeets. And what I can say about the lorikeets is don't look up because they will poo directly into your eyeball. And so I had a whole 3 whammy in one of my first days of filming. So, but with animals, you're going to get covered in stuff. You have to deal with them not doing what you think they're going to do sometimes. They cause chaos, they cause beauty, they cause fun. But I've still got my eyesight, it's not very good. I have to wear contact lenses, but I don't know the lorikeets.
Yeah, good stuff. think I told the story the other night of getting skunk juice in my surgical mask and puking into my surgical mask. It was not my finest veterinary moment, I have to say. What about you, Lucy? Anything disgusting to share?
Disgusting. There's a thing at Springwatch where I'm kind of known as the girl who likes dead things. So various members of the team, if and when they find things, I'll just come back to my desk and there'll be, I don't know, a skull, or in this case, this Springwatch just got a mummified baby house martin just on my table. I did once accidentally took home, I think it was high fly catcher nest. And then incidentally, I was reading a book about high fly catcher nests being one of the highest occupancy rates of bird fleas, in this book. And then, like a few weeks later, I went into the cupboard where I'd stored the pie fly catcher nest, which was next to the boiler. So it's quite a flea-filled cupboard. Luckily, they don't actually feed on humans, so it avoided a complete infestation. But can I tell a weird story?
Go tell a weird story.
Not gross. There is an amazing girl who's one of my favourite people in the world called Mel Parker, who I met on The Watchers, and she's a researcher. And when I first met, she's really quite quiet. And then every now and then she'd just say something under her breath, and I'd be like, that's really funny. She's absolutely hilarious. And we trauma bonded one night on, I think it was Winter Watch, and you'll be familiar with this, with Mr. Packham. I'd been making props, and I had to make a life-size representation of all of the British species of mustelids, so everything from like a badger and an otter all the way down to a weasel. And I was doing all right for time. I normally cut it quite fine. I was doing all right for time. I had about an hour left, and I was cutting out the final mustelid. And I was like, "This is, we're good to go here." Chris walks into the little prop area, and he's like, "Right, what we need are potatoes." He said, "Because we can't just have the side representations. We've got to have the representation of the weight of the mustelids. Otherwise, who's going to know what's going on?" Okay, Chris. He said, "So what we need is a pile of potatoes that represents the weight of each of the British mustelid species." And this is at about 7:10. We're going to land at 8. So run to the catering truck, and I'm like, "Do you have any sports?"
A weasel size potato.
Well, so 3 sacks of potatoes dragged into the props tent later. All I can find anywhere on site was at Wild Ken Hill, so there wasn't a lot on site. It was a pair of little tiny kitchen scales, like the electric ones. So we had to, in fractions, work out, Google the average weight of a badger, and then 3 or 4 spuds at a time weigh up these tiny pairs of scales and build up these piles. And they were rolling everywhere. It was just this really surreal situation. Oh God, it's 20 to 8, and we've not even got to the polecat yet. It was so stressful. Then not only that, we then had to back them up, shove them in a wheelbarrow, wheel them down to set, and then lay them all out in time. Stressful, but one of those really surreal moments where you're like, what is my job?
But you do it every time, you do it so good, and then sometimes props are like that one, I throw at you last minute.
Yeah.
And you're so good at it every time the props arrive, and they are phenomenal. They make the show, and they're funny, and they're entertaining, and they're just beautifully drawn. And you just hit the deadline. I mean, sometimes we're out holding the glue's still a little bit wet. Otherwise, that's not you. I mean, you've just you've really made the show. It's brilliant.
And then sometimes, next, you get given instructions not to pull a certain prop out of a hole because it might look a bit obscene on television and it's a big heap on sock or through something.
It was a tiger beetle larvae. We talked about this last year actually. Lucy's also known for making props that can sometimes resemble phallic objects. And you have to present with them with a straight face, which is really hard to do, especially when she gives them to you with a giggle. She knows how hard it's going to be if you have to present with this prop. But I mean, it's all part of the fun of the Watchers, isn't it? You can be a bit cheeky, a bit tongue-in-cheek at times.
Yeah. I'm keen to get questions from the audience as well. So how are we doing on time, Nigel? 5 minutes. So probably time to hand over to the audience for some questions, I think. I have lots more questions, but I'm assuming that you guys do too. So do we have a roaming mic in the audience? Yeah? Yeah, so there's a guy back down here. Wow, it's a football mic.
It working? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a quick question, mainly for Lucy and Megan, really. How different do you think Springwatch would have been without Lucy's props?
Aww.
Worthless.
Do you want me to go? Yeah.
Very different. she brings the character to the prop, she makes the science come alive. You know, without Lucy's creativity, it wouldn't be quite the same heartwarming fun show that we all know and love. She works so tirelessly behind the scenes. I mean, a lot of people do, but Lucy's always working. Like, for Lucy to have 5 minutes off in a day is unheard of. So yeah, I mean, she brings the character and she makes the science, you know, really visual and exciting. She brings it to life. So yeah, it'd be very different. Thanks.
Great. Any other questions? The lady here in the middle.
Could you describe your most magical wildlife moment you had while swimming?
I'm glad that's come on. I'll believe.
Hey, I'll do the most magical one last week, probably managing to film a bullfinch laying an egg, to be there when she's actually laid 3 eggs. It's always sort of a goal to film the start of something alive, basically. That is, well, the start of the life is when they make, but an egg coming out as a bird, for instance, or a bird hatching. So I filmed the robins hatching with macro lenses this year. So little moments, I mean, there's just so many, but it's little magic moments like that. You know, I've seen jaguars catching caiman and stuff, and that is just like spectacular. It's unbelievable, and that's what everyone here probably would love to see. But sometimes it's those little moments where you just spend weeks and weeks with the subject, even months or years studying the subject, and you get that little moment. You know, film kingfishers, you know, the back view of kingfishers laying eggs and things before. It's just, it's those moments you need to just sort of pinch yourself, but there's no time because I'm trying to operate several different cameras at once. But yeah, it's always those first moments, and when animals first meet as well, because other cameras are on 24/7, is to be able to see when like a pair of barn owls meet, and there's this like little awkward moment, and then they clash, and they don't quite know what they're doing, especially if it's 2 young birds. They're as awkward as anything, and they always do something completely incorrect by knocking the male will call for 3 weeks and then knock the female over. So it's, as she comes in, so it's always things like that. Yeah, it's almost too many to mention, really.
Megan, magic moment with wildlife?
Lots,
Good one,
so many to mention. Quickly off the top of my head, I had a great time of filming last year. Puffins in the water by Skoma. So we were snorkeling with them, and you had this view in the snorkel of their little feet doing this under the water, bright orange. And you wear a puffin hat on your head, like a plastic puffin. You look ridiculous. But it means that they're quite interested. So if you're able to submerge yourself and stay quite buoyant and in the water, they're quite curious. Like, what is that weird thing? Are they trying to resemble us now? That's an embarrassment. Frankly, I half think it's an insult to the puffin's intelligence, but it does also work because they're quite curious. So they come up to you and they have a little look at what you are, and yeah, get that split view of the puffin, you know, on top of the water.
Lucy, Andy, the Irish.
I'll be very quick. I met during Springwatch a couple of years ago in Arne in Dorset a lady who's also called Lucy, who's probably, I don't know, 20 or 30 years older than me. Incredible woman. It was kind of like looking at the future of like how far I'm going to go down in an indie hole. She's not official, but like an amateur entomologist that has an encyclopedic knowledge, and she was hilarious, loads of really dry wit. And she had brought in some giant bagworm moths, which build cases around the females that look a little bit like caddisflies that are made out of sticks from heather. Incredible, like this big. And we were doing a feature with them live on air, and the researchers had been diligently combing through all of the literature to talk about their mating strategy, which is about how the male bagworm moth mates with this weird pupil-looking female that, you know, is wingless and lives inside this case. And when Lucy got wind of what the script was going to say, because she was the moth wrangler, she was bringing in these moths, she was like, no, that's not right. And they're like, well, no, this is what science says. And she's like, well, that's not how they do it. This is how they do it. This is how they have sex. This is how they mate. And we were all like, we've got to follow what the literature says. And she was like, right, fine, okay, whatever. That's not how they do it, I'm telling you. And we're like, okay. Anyway, got to the live show, and we had this net, you know, like a butterfly thing with the moths, the caterpillars in it, the adult females in it, and they emit pheromones to attract the male because they're wingless and flightless, so they have to stink in order to bring the males in. Well, live on air, this little male comes like parading across the heath, like flying along straight into the butterfly net and starts mating with a female. exactly how Lucy described it. And I will swear a little bit, but just under arrest, she said, tickets.
On that note, we are pretty much. But I would like, just before we go, a quick fire buzz around what's coming up next or what's on the agenda now. Lucy,
yes, I'm doing my book tour at the moment, so I've got various dates where I'm giving rambling talks, hopefully there'll be less students about my book, so we'll visit her.
Great, Rob?
Oh, just keep doing what I'm doing, trying to reveal the secrets of especially our British wildlife. You know, robins have been in the big feature this year.
Yeah.
It's going to be a one-shot Christmas special. Everyone loves a robin, don't they? And
Well,
yes.
101 last night, tried to put it in the bin, I would say. Yeah, go on, Alex.
Well, other than Animal Park, which starts tomorrow, I think if you've seen on my social media, we do this thing called Operation something, where we do a live campaign which highlights an environmental atrocity or wildlife welfare issue. Got another one coming up, it's a new one, can't say any more, but we'll keep you posted.
Okay, and I'm going to take the liberty of giving myself a plug too. Beaver Believers book, children's book is out now and coming hot off the press for Christmas. Another one is coming out before Christmas called Falcon Friends about Tiger Falcons. So watch this space. Can we give it up for a lovely pal?